Welcome to the scorching arena of valor and the crucible of courage. This is the Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Here, in the inferno of life's greatest challenges, heroes are shaped and legends are born. Every episode is a torchlight of wisdom, casting a glow on the paths walked by those who've braved the flames and emerged stronger. In this furnace of fortitude, we'll explore tales of resilience, bravery, and the unyielding human spirit. Each guest brings their own spark of insight, lighting up the darkness and guiding us through the smoke of adversity. With Fireman Rob at the helm, prepared to delve into conversations that smolder with significance and stories that kindle the soul. It's not just a podcast, it's a beacon for all who seek to rise from the ashes and glow with purpose. So stoke the fires of your curiosity and ready your heart for tales of triumph and transformation. The flames are roaring. The stage is ablaze. Welcome to the Forged in the Fires podcast. Let the journey begin.
All right, welcome back to Forged in the Fires podcast. I'm your host, Fireman Rob. Today's guest, the list of accomplishments is pretty much taking up the whole screen here on my computer. It's unbelievable what she's done. It's unbelievable what she continues to do. That's what I love about this. Phebe Trotman, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for our conversation. I've been looking forward to it. I love what you're doing with the podcast, and honored to be here today.
The accomplishments, you got to be kidding. Like, have you lived twice? Is that what happened?
Pretty much, yeah. And I'm still only 20. No, just kidding.
That's perfect. I mean, I love all these accomplishments. You're an amazing athlete, and in the Hall of Fame. I mean, you sit here and you go, wow. I mean, to get in the Hall of Fame for soccer, that's got to be something that. Did you dream of that when you were a kid?
You know what? No, I didn't. I have to say, I'm so grateful for so many incredible honors and team honors and individual accolades. And I've been fortunate. I've played on some exceptional teams. I've been I love the game. So obviously that helps, right? It's just, I enjoy the game. And and it's an incredible honor, like to be inducted into the Coquitlam Sports Hall of Fame. I mean, it caught me off guard, and then I've had team inductions as well too. And it truly is an honor because it speaks to dedication to a sport and just commitment to it, and to see these awards now, and it just reminds me of like some of the most incredible high moments of being an athlete and playing soccer.
Well, now, when you go back to when you were younger, and did you play soccer when you were younger?
I did. I started playing when I was 5 years old. So it's been a minute.
Wow. So take me back to when you were younger. What was the joy of soccer at that point?
I just love playing. So my older brother, my brother's 4 years older, and I was literally the kid sister being tagged along to all his games because, with my dad or my mom, they were both going. So I was coming too. And then I was like, I want to play too. And so they signed me up, and I don't know if it was supposed to be a co-ed team and I was the only girl, or maybe they just put me on the boys. I have no idea. And I wish I could find out, because I literally started off on an all boys team as the only little girl. I was the only person of color on the team, but
you just want to be everything.
I guess so. I mean, I looked at the picture and it's like, can you pick out Phoebe? Yes, you can. There she is. And it was fun. And I mean, I was used to my older brother, male cousin. So it didn't faze me that I was playing with boys, and they were all great. So we just played. And then eventually I ended up on a girls team, but I love to play. I really, truly love to play soccer.
And were you a striker all the time, or did you play midfield? Did you play defense? What was kind of your choice? What was your pick of
great question.
Position?
Naturally striker. I love to go to goal. And then I had a coach. Well, it's funny. I had one coach when I actually am in the process of the next book, and I tell this story in it. In it, I share how I actually had a coach, because I was saying, they asked what position you play, and I said striker, and he had it in his mind that I was a defender. And so I played defense, which is just really not my jam. I mean, kudos to my incredible teammates who play defense. They they're probably going to laugh when they hear this, because I love to be upfront and just go to the net. And I have this sense of where the goal is and how to finish.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, playing another position where it was a huge transition. I didn't adapt well to it. Let's just say that, save the rest of the story in the book. But naturally I'm more attack minded, if you will.
I love that. Now, how does that attack mind go into what I love that you're an author in the Never Quit on a Bad Day, inspiring stories of resilience. How does that attacker mind frame tie into resilience in your life and tie into resilience in other people learning from your life?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I mean, I think one of the things being attack minded, it's you're very goal oriented. And so goal in the sense of a soccer goal, putting the ball in the back of the net, and then goal oriented in life, where I'm always.
I like the pun you did there. That was good.
Did you? Yes.
That was good.
You got that.
You scored.
Right back at you. Nicely done there, Rob. Nicely done. And I think it's part of it, though, right? First of all, having fun. I mean, this is awesome. I love to play, and I believe that having fun in what you do is just so important, and looking for how do you create fun in that. And so everything's trying to translate it into being very goal oriented, in the sense of, with my career in terms of business, I set goals. I love to accomplish things and have those little wins. And I just encourage people to celebrate the little wins. So oftentimes in life, we're so focused on the big goal. And when I get there, then I'm going to celebrate. However, it's so important to celebrate the little milestones along the way to your big goal, because if you don't, you're missing the biggest part of the journey, is getting to there. So if you don't celebrate until you get there, you're missing all these milestones along the way. And so that's one thing that's definitely transferred over into just my life in general, is making sure now that I celebrate, because a lot of times I didn't. I would just kind of be like, okay, check onto the next thing, check onto the next thing. And then I had to realize, like, wait a second, I'm missing so many moments that I should be pausing to be like, that was cool, and to celebrate with other people as well too.
And how, and as you enjoy and embrace all the things that you've done, what was it like transitioning from being the player on the field to being the head coach? How did that feel from that perspective?
Well, coaching kind of came, through university. Actually, when I was playing university soccer, our coach there was basically like, okay, well, you guys are all going to coach. So we all had to start a program.
So there was no choice.
Yeah. So it got gently forced upon us, I think, at that university age. And then I just kind of continued through, because I've been very fortunate. I've had some exceptional coaches over my career as an athlete that I'm just so grateful. And they've left such a imprint on me in terms of who I am as a person. So to have that opportunity to give that to other players, because I've also had coaches who I wouldn't necessarily want to follow in their footsteps in terms of how. So I've learned from the good.
We've all had those, yes.
Exactly, that were different, on a different path, if you will. And so I wanted to take all that I learned, the good, the stuff I would rather have not maybe had to experience, and give it to players in that way. And so I've just kind of continued on coaching, and now in my role as head coach for it's a kids program, so the players are actually 3 to 7, and it's so amazing because you get a chance to just help them on that first start. Now, whether or not it's they become soccer players and they continue on or not, my goal with the program and the goal of all the coaches in the program is that they have a fun experience, that they have a chance to celebrate those little wins. It might be a win if they didn't touch the ball with their hands at practice. Yay, we are going to celebrate that. Or it might be a pass or a goal, but we're going to
pick a booger.
Yeah, exactly. They did not win.
Winner.
Scored. Yes, right? Like, it really is those little wins, and teaching them to have a smile on their face and to celebrate their accomplishments and their wins, and that they're going to leave the program, if they do, whether they continue on in soccer or they just experience it for a season, that they're going to remember every time. My goal truly is every time they see a ball, they're going to remember soccer with a smile. It might be they're watching the World Cup 20 years later and they've never played since they were 5. Yet when they see that soccer ball, they're like, oh yeah, that was fun. They had some moments that they can cherish and hold on to.
Oh, that's such a great philosophy. Soccer with a smile. I love that. And you mentioned this, and you touched on this, the bad coaches. I want to go into that, because when you talk about resilience, every athlete has had that coach where you go, I'm not learning anything, or man, it just seems like I'm always getting yelled at no matter what happens, or it's just not working out for that season. What were some of the things that you did to be able to endure and not just go into that despair moment that some athletes do?
Yeah. And I mean, for everyone, it's going to be a different journey for sure. And if you've had that experience, my heart goes out to you. I've been there. I understand. And it's hard, especially when you're in a sport where a coach has the opportunity to, in some ways, give you game time or not give you game time. You make the team or you don't make the team. And so one of the things, because I do share about a time I didn't make a team, and I was devastated. I just cried and cried and cried. And finally my parents, I think they were honestly just like, okay, sort this out, because they
time to get on.
Absolutely. And they sort of shifted like this in a way where they put it back on me and they said, okay, well, what do you want to do with the sport? And do you want to let one coach's decision determine what you do with the sport? And it was tough. I mean, I was 13 years old. I was, upset and frustrated, like, whatever, mom and dad. However, that moment, that's when it was a turning point for me that I've carried through. And looking back on it, I really carried that through, that they forced me to look at what I could control. And in the sense that I can only control how hard I work, my attitude, continuing to play, work on the skills that I can bring, be a better player in terms of my fitness and focusing on that and focusing on the skill. And I didn't, and my mental attitude, because I share this too in the story in the book, like I didn't adapt well to, this was another coach who decided I was a defender, and I didn't adapt well to it. Like I had a choice. I could have looked at it as like, he thinks I'm talented enough to play another position. I didn't look at it that way. I was very frustrated. I was like, I'm not a defender, and I didn't perform well, and I didn't make the team. And so that lesson has carried me through that in the times when I have had coaches who maybe I don't necessarily get along with as well, or they're hard on me, or whatever the case may be. It's focusing back on, well, what can I control? At the end of the day, I can make sure that I am bringing my A game to everything. And even though sometimes you may not get the reward right then and there, you have that personal satisfaction that you've brought your A game, and you should be starting on the game, but maybe you're just not that game. However, you can put your head to bed at night being like, I did everything that I could do. I've had a good attitude. And also sometimes I think you have to borrow positive experiences from other areas of your life if you're not getting that positive reinforcement from your coach, which is hard because everyone wants their coach to believe in them and see, let's be transparent with that. We all want that. However, sometimes they have a different idea of what they want to see in a player. And if it doesn't match up, still, if you're bringing and doing everything that you can do, you have to hold on to that and then borrow belief and confidence and accomplishment in other areas in your life, right? You may not get it on the soccer field. However, you might get it at home from your parents, or maybe from your friends, or maybe in a hobby that you do, and really hold on to that, because, and look for the good in it. And that's one thing too, is just finding the gratefulness. There's been times where I wasn't starting and I'm only playing 5 minutes, or I'm on the bench, and that's hard. I want to play, right? However, finding those moments of like, well, I could not even be on the team. So I'm grateful for where I am right now. And how can I make sure that the next game I am starting, what can I do? Again, focusing back on what you can control and being grateful for the opportunities that you're given and making the most. This is the other thing I teach young players, like make the most of every opportunity.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Again, going into university soccer, when I got signed, I was not, the coach said you're going to get time. However, I wasn't signed as in like, you're coming in, you're going to start every game, because we had a talented lineup of attacking players that were, juniors and sophomores and seniors. And I was coming in as a freshman. So I just decided that whatever opportunity I get, you're going to know that Phebe Trotman's on the field, because I'm going to make an impact, whether I'm starting, whether I get 5 minutes, I come off the bench. But that mentality led me to have a great career in terms of university as well, because I made the most of every opportunity. And that's something too, that sometimes players, it's like, well, I only got 5 minutes. Well, did you make the most of the 5 minutes? Did you change the game in that 5 minutes? And that's a philosophy we can apply to our lives too. Whatever opportunity you're given, are you making the most out of it?
Those are such, the two that I was just, my mind was getting blown on. I love the borrow from other opportunities, or borrow from other like happy experiences, because that's so valuable to kids, because there's so many things where you don't get those accolades, you don't get that immediate satisfaction that they're looking for, but you can borrow from other. Talk to me more about that, because I love that philosophy of being able to borrow to stay in that in essence never quit on a bad day kind of mindset of resilience. Talk to me more about how have you incorporated that into your life, and kind of when you figured that out.
Yeah. And you know what? I wish I knew when I figured it out. I think it's just kind of something that's sort of happened along the journey, if you will, in the
Nice.
sense that
Yes.
anytime we're going into a new scenario, we're learning something new, maybe things aren't going well in one area. There often are other areas where things are going well. And there's often other times where you've had confidence in, another, for example, I'll use the book, for example, like writing I didn't have on my heart to write a book. It wasn't like some lifelong goal and passion of mine. It really just sort of, and we can talk if there's time more about how it happened. But regardless of that, I was nervous. I definitely was nervous to be like, I'm writing a book. Like, what do I know about writing a book?
I'm doing what?
I read a lot. I read tons of books. So that part I knew. However, that writing, publishing, all that part, I really didn't know. That being said, so I was nervous. However, I borrowed confidence in the sense that I've learned other things before, right? I've accomplished stuff. I've been uncomfortable before. I've gotten used to being uncomfortable. I would say like, get comfortable being uncomfortable. So I had that. So I borrowed my confidence from the sense that I've learned before and I've done things new before. So I took that and applied that over here to the book, where I thought, okay, well, and being okay that in the beginning, you might have little stumbles. That's part of it. That's part of growing. That's part of learning. That's how we all learn to walk. We fell first, right? But we kept going. We got back up, we learned, we took another step. And so when I say borrow, you might borrow the confidence, or you borrow a win from something else that, you have people, especially if you're not getting, the quote unquote love from your coach. Well, where can you get that love from? You have friends, you have family, you have people who care about you, who love you. Take that feeling, bottle it up, and bring it over to the field, because you may not be getting it direct from your coach, but it still is in you, and holding tight onto that. And especially when you're having those tough moments, I have some stuff going on personally right now it's something I've never had to experience, and it's hard. It's very, very hard. And so I have to borrow the gratitude of other moments and bring it over. I borrow the fact that I've gone through other tough stuff, not the same as what I'm going through now, but I've gone through other tough stuff and I've made it through. So I hold on to that. I hold on to the little moments of joy when I'm, with family and friends and my partner, and, on the soccer field or at boot camp, like the little wins, the little smiles. And especially when you're going through a tough time, that's when you have to focus on hold on to those even more. And you hold on to them tightly. You really have to, especially when it's hard, right? It is. Life is hard. We know that. And so how do you that's why I think gratitude is just so important, because that's where it just shifts your perspective, even if it's just for a split second, to be like, well, what am I grateful for right now in this moment? What can I hold on to? And it might be, you had coffee this morning. Hold on to that, right? It might be the smallest thing.
I had way too much. That's the problem.
I know, or that too.
If I hold on to it, I'm going to be floating out of here, Phoebe.
There you go. Exactly.
Now let's get to the book, because I love that. You can go to neverquitonabadday.com. That is one of the greatest websites. I love that. But
thank you.
Talk to me more about the premise behind the book, because it's stories. You're giving like real life. Hey, this is resilience. And this is not just me telling you about resilience. This is me telling you stories of people with resilience. Tell me more about the premise behind this.
Yeah. So let me just back up how the idea sort of even came to. So when I was inducted into the Coquitlam Sports Hall of Fame, we had an interview. And in that process, the interviewer asked, what has sport given me in terms of my life? And I shared, so many life lessons, things that we're talking about right now, like resilience and accountability and focusing on what you can control and time management, a whole bunch of life skills, if you will. I said, that being said, I've also had amazing highs in sport, national championships and personal accolades and things like that. And I shared with them, I said, the only reason, though, that I was able to have all those highs are because I kept going when I had the lows, the getting cut from the team and crying my eyes out, this, we're coming back from an injury, sitting on the bench, not even dressing for some games, like all those frustrating, having coaches that, you don't get along with, all the frustrating moments. Because I continued to push through those, that's why I was able to get to the other side of it. And so in sharing that, that was something that I just truly believed. I said, we need to just start sharing more of that stuff. And often when I do help with tryouts and evaluations, I tell them like, look, I got cut from a team, because people will see the list of, accolades and be like, oh yeah, it probably was easy. You've always been. And it's like, no, it has not always been like that. And so the premise of the book, I had some friends that were talking about what's next and kind of our journey, if you will. And I shared that it's been on my heart for years just to create something to help inspire and just encourage people. And so I didn't know what it was going to be. And they suggested write a book. And anyways, back and forth for a little bit. And later that night, when I finally was kind of open to it, I thought back to that interview and I realized like, that's what I want to write a book about. That's going to tell the story behind the story, to let people realize that you may see, accolades or a VIP, like all these great things that we see. However, like when you hear the story behind the story, then it lets you know, well, wait a second, I'm not alone. I'm going through challenging time. Other people went through challenging time. Like, how did they push through? What did they do to push through? And so that's really what the book is about. It's a collection of short stories. I knew I wanted it to be other people's stories as well, because I truly believe that when someone reads the book, wherever they are on their journey, they will connect with one story more than another story, or they might, you can learn from every single one, but there's going to be certain ones that you connect with depending on where you're at in your journey. And so I believe that when we have collective wisdom and we can learn from other people with different backgrounds and lifestyles and ages and all of it, it's so powerful. And so I knew I wanted a diverse group of people, different stories, and I wanted it to be more than just you're reading about a story and you're like, okay, that's cool. However, at the back of it, or at the end of every chapter, there's a section called Reflections on Resilience. And that is really for the reader. Get a pen when you're reading this book. Go through the questions at the end of the chapter, because it's about that reader. So the reader can be fueled and reflect on how they're resilient too. We're all resilient. Sometimes we just forget how resilient we are. And so the reflections on resilience at the end of every chapter has a lesson there that's tied to the story. However, it's really about that reader. So the reader can feel empowered and equipped to go forward in whatever way and whatever journey they're on. And so it really is it's a very, I'm so grateful for how the book turned out, because it really is a powerful book.
Amazing.
Yeah, that people are feeling inspired and taking action. And that's the biggest thing, because you can feel inspired and then still sit in the same place. So that's what I really think is something that would make people move forward, even if it's just one step, or adding in a gratitude practice, or starting to dream again, or, taking a step forward with their network, whatever it is that people, and that's what's so touching and rewarding, is that people are, sharing reviews about how it's helped them move forward. And that's my biggest goal, is just take an action, whatever that is. Yes, feel inspired, and then move forward.
How does it equate between making this book to help others to really kind of continue to move forward in a right way, compared to like all of your accolades? What feels better to you? Does it feel great to have that impact in this world on both sides, or is it one more than the other?
Wow, that's a really good question, Rob. I don't know if I've ever sat and thought about it. Wow. I would say they're very different in the sense that, they're both equally rewarding. And I'm just like, I am so grateful that this book is having the impact that it's having, because that's impacting other people. And one of my biggest things is I do truly believe that when one person is inspired and they start to live their life passions, whatever that is, it naturally has a ripple effect on their network, because now their network is looking at them and being like, wow, like, Fireman Rob started a podcast. That's awesome. I can do something too. I've always wanted to do X. It may not be a podcast. However, you just starting it, to everyone around you, they're like, wow, that's cool. Maybe if he did that, I can write a book, or maybe I can do this, or I can do this. Right. So for me with the book, it kind of set off this ripple effect that I'm super excited about, because as people are feeling more inspired and start to take action, it's going to impact their community and their network and their friends and family in a way that it's just going to continue to grow. So that part is just so heartwarming. The accolades on a, soccer level. to share like national championships with teammates, like that is a bond that it lasts forever, because you think back to the game and you're just like, wow, like we did it, and everything you go through, the tears of losing in national championship finals to the smiles, and like you're not even able to stop smiling for days, or actually longer than days, because it's such an incredible feeling. So they're both so rewarding and in just different ways.
I love it. That was perfect. Make sure you go to neverquitonaBadDay.com. Phoebe, it's been such an amazing adventure with you, but you're not done yet. You still have 3 questions to answer. Are you ready for those?
I'm ready. Bring it. Let's go, Fireman Rob.
All right, here we go.
I love Fireman Rob, by the way. That is I love it.
Stretching. I'm stretching to get you ready here. Here we go. Okay. If you could go back to your 18-year-old self and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
Focus on what I want instead of focusing so much on what other people think of me.
Oh my God, that's a great piece of advice. I've got 3 kids, so it's like, that's such a great piece of advice. I love that. All right, the second one, if everybody has challenges and struggles that they're going through in life, if you could give them 2 habits to incorporate into their daily life to continue to push forward, to continue to move and live forward towards that potential, what would those 2 habits be?
Great question. So number 1, I would tell them to, in their phone, I would put a calendar event. And this is something I did many, many years ago when I was very frustrated with a lot of stuff. So anyways, and I still do. And so I'd encourage them to put a calendar invite, and it can be whatever time of day that works best for them. Mine goes off at 9:10 p.m. Pacific every single day for years. It goes off and it just says, I'm so happy and grateful that. And when I started that, it made me pause. It still makes me pause. Now I have a completely different, like, wake up with gratitude throughout the day and go to bed in gratitude. However, back then when I started it, that wasn't the case. So I would encourage people to do that, because it forces you to just pause. And sometimes it might be 10 seconds and you're driving and it pops up and you just, you think of what you're grateful for. Sometimes you might be at home where you can take 20 minutes. So I would definitely encourage that. The other thing I would say, and I talk a little bit about this, is work on your dream day. So the shortest version of that is basically from the moment, grab a journal, notepad. I have a workbook too, if someone wants to go a little bit deeper. However, basically grab a pen and paper and think about, what does a dream day look like for you from the moment you open your eyes in the morning to the moment you close your eyes. Write it in present tense and get into the feeling of, what does it feel like? Who do you see? What do you experience? What does your environment look like? Et cetera, et cetera. And the reason I say to do that is because it gives you something to focus on. For me, that is my lighthouse. So when things are rough, when I'm frustrated, I think back or I go read my dream day, and it moves me forward. It pulls me towards living that life. So I would say, do those 2 things: calendar invite for gratitude, I'm so happy and grateful that, and work on your dream day.
I've marked it down. I'm ready.
Yeah.
All right. I'm ready. This last one's always fun. So if you could have coffee at a firehouse table, so in other words, you can ask any question, it's going to be answered. And there's all these, it's just an open forum with 3 people. They can be deceased or alive. Who would those 3 people be?
Great question. I would say Nelson Mandela.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I would say my dad, because my dad passed away, unfortunately. And I would say probably Mother Teresa.
Wow. That's a good table.
Those 3. I think that would just be so, Oh,
that'd be an uplifting table. You see, it just made your day right there.
Oh, I'm just smiling. See, I'm literally picturing it. I think I'd just sit and just be like, can you guys just talk? And I'd
you guys just talk amongst yourselves
and record. And because I know my dad would have some incredible questions. And so I just let him do the asking. I'd sit there and I'd soak it all up just so that I could share it with other people. That would just
my gosh. I love it. Phoebe, it's such an honor to have you on. Make sure you go to neverquitonaBadDay.com. Keep doing the amazing things you're doing. And thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Rob. It has been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for stepping into your greatness and going after your dreams with this podcast. I absolutely love it. So keep shining.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. You make me smile. I like it.
Yay. Smiles are good. Smiles are good. And then share that smile with someone else.
Thanks for listening and supporting the Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Remember, don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast. And please share this episode with a friend or family member. To find out more about Fireman Rob, or if you have a question, go to www.firemanrob.com. Until next time, live your life forged in the fires.